yajna tava na punarmoham
evam yayasi pandava
evam yayashi pandava
yena bhutani asheshani
yena bhutani aseshani
drakshyasi atmani atho mayi.
drakshasi hatmani atomai.
Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So, this is one place where Krishna clearly says that each living entity is a part of the Supreme and then that they belong to Him. Right? Elsewhere, he talks in a different thing, but here he makes it very emphatic that all living beings belong to Him. Okay, please read the purport.
Hare Krishna. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul or one who knows things as they are is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma means not ya, means this. Some think that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Um, Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experience in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is the case in the absolute world. For, for want to sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not the actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being as Krishna's eternal servitor cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in the transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul Krishna is the supreme shelter for all living entities, and giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, um, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation as confirmed in the Bhagavatam. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti tidiha. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, a lot of good points mentioned in this purport. So, the sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. That's it. So, just like if you're looking at the sun, he's bright. But when you turn around, the sun rays are on your head, but your eyes are not feeling the brightness anymore. That's it. When you turn towards Krishna, Maya cannot touch you. But when you turn away from Krishna, you are completely in Maya. So it is like a binary thing, either Krishna or Maya. That's about it. So it is said in the Brahma Samhita that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cause of all causes. Like last time we dissected this, Supreme means there is nobody higher than that. Personality means he is a person, God is a person, and Godhead. So he's the head of all the gods. Everything comes from him. That is, Krishna is the source. Just like fountainhead, from fountain head you get water in a lake or in a pond, and then you can put some decorative things around that and it looks very nice. But really all the water is coming from a small 1-inch pipe at the bottom of the pond. So similarly, Godhead means he's the starting point. Everybody else comes from him. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I was reading with one of some of our other students. So the expansions of Godhead are of three kinds. One is the queens of Dwarka. One is all his internal expansions like Yogamaya and so on. And third is all the gopis in Vrajadhama. So these three different kinds of expansions come from him. And that's why he's called cause of all causes. So technically, he's also the cause of corona indirectly. Why is corona coming? Because people's karma has increased. And some or the other, to lower the temperature, the Lord introduces certain things so that people don't go mad after, activities, material activities. So right now we all, like by January, stock market was at an all-time high, almost 30,000, points for Dow Jones average, and everything was so high. So to cool it down, nature or Maya introduces certain steps. So Corona is also one such step to cool everything down, right? So we have to understand this as such. We cannot complain, right? Because when the body temperature rises, what do? You take one wet cloth and you put it on your forehead. And then the body temperature, in conjunction with maybe Tylenol or ibuprofen, it will come down. So when the temperature rises, it has to be cooled down. Of course, now because of one rise in temperature, other things may increase. Now all the house prices are going up because interest rates are low. So for that, there'll be some other course correction at some point. But in general, whenever individuals become very materialistic, Maya Devi has certain ways to calm things down. And she will do it. That's her job, right? You may think that this troubles some, but that will happen. So ultimately, the reason we call Krishna cause of all causes is because he causes all these external energies, Maya to happen, his internal energy to happen, and all that. And then all the other causes come from these primary causes. Like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were reading yesterday that from Krishna comes the first Chatur Vyuha expansion. Vasudeva, Sankarshana. We can maybe go there for a second. Chaitanya Charitamrita, no, Vedavyas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi, chapter 1. Actually, chapter 1 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita pretty much tells you all the philosophy. Everything else is like just supporting that. Yeah, this is the one. Actually, we can just stick to the English here. I surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Rama. So there are two gentlemen. One is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is an incarnation of Jagannath. The second is Nityananda Rama, who is incarnation of Baladev or Balaram. So Krishna and Balaram come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Ram. So he's saying Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarshan in the midst of Chaturvyuha. So Chaturvyuha means first Krishna expands as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. So the first Sankarshana is Nityananda Ram. And again Sankarshana expands into Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. So from the second Sankarshan, you will get who is known as Karno Dakasai Vishnu, who sleeps on the Karana ocean and is the original Purusha. He is the first person. So just like we sing, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, like every day in the morning at 4 o'clock in Tirupati, these Govinda prayers are sung. It's called the Brahma Samhita. And it is sung in various ISKCON temples also, but that's about it. Most people don't know about these things. So from Krishna come these four expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. And again, from the first Sankarshana comes the second Sankarshana. And from there, second Sankarshana comes Karno Daksai Vishnu, lying on the Karna ocean. And he is the master of illusory energy. So, although everything appears real to us, you will be surprised that everything may not be real. These are all creations of Maya to make you think that everything is real. You see, this gentleman is called Karno Daksai Vishnu. So there is no Lakshmi Devi at the feet of Karno Daksai Vishnu. See the difference? Lakshmi Devi is within the bubble. So Karno Daksai Vishnu expands into these millions of bubbles from his bodily pores. From each pore, like if you look at your body, everybody look at your hand, there will be a hair. So if you pull out a hair, there is a hole. In that, from each hole of Karno Daksha Vishnu comes one universe, and then Garbho Daksha Vishnu is there in that universe. And at his feet, you see Lakshmi Devi. So it is not in Karno Daksha Vishnu's feet, at Karno Daksha Vishnu's feet, only at Garbho Daksha Vishnu's feet. Right? So that is how we have to understand. And then when Garbho Daksha Vishnu, let's do that. Garbho Daksha. So Garbho Daksha Vishnu, if you look in various temples, like this is a temple in India, but even in Nepal, you will see this. He is usually shown in a pond. Okay? Usually shown in a pond like that. Because he's in the Garbho, like the lower half of each bubble. Remember, we talked about many bubbles. The lower half is covered with water, in which there is a Sheshnag, and then Garbho Daksha Vishnu is sleeping there. One other characteristics of Garbho Daksha Vishnu is what? Can you say the difference between Karno Daksha Vishnu and Garbho Daksha?
Lakshmi Devi at his feet.
Yes, that is step one. What else?
From his navel comes Brahma, the lotus.
Yes, from the navel comes the lotus stalk on which there is a lotus flower, and Brahma sits on that lotus flower. So Brahma is Garbho Daksha Vishnu's son, but he doesn't need Lakshmi Devi's help. Like, you and me, we require a wife to impregnate and baby comes out of the wife's womb. But for Garbhodaksha Vishnu, it doesn't need Lakshmi Devi's help to produce Brahma. So Brahma is, that's why is also known as Ajha, means he doesn't have a mom. He only has a father, right? And next to him are standing Shiva and all these other devatas, right? And then there is Narada Muni also singing like that. So all this is there in the Hindu literature for a long time, but people have forgotten. People don't think of it. Like in Anantapadmanabha temple, to see the Lord in Kerala, you have to see through 3 doors. First door, you see the face of the Lord. Second door, you see the navel and the lotus stalk and the lotus flower and Brahma. Third door, you see the feet and Lakshmi Devi. So the Lord is so long, the Vigraha in Kerala. If you have chance, you should go see it. India has some of the most amazing things which are hidden from the public eye, which is a good thing. Otherwise, too many tourists will come and devotees will not get that experience, right? So this is, I think, in Nepal. Yesterday when I was looking, I saw something similar like this in Nepal, right? So you'll always see Lakshmi Devi at the feet. You will see the lotus stalk, the lotus flower, and Brahma is sitting on the lotus flower, and Vishnu is lying on a gigantic serpent called Sheshnag, and there is water of the Garbhodaka ocean. So every universe, lower half is dark and it is filled with Garbhodaka waters. Like they did some research, they wanted to see the southernmost tip of the Antarctic Ocean. Can you guess what the research found out? You should research this on the internet. You can never touch the southernmost tip of planet Earth. It's too dark and it's always covered with ice. Nobody has been there. When they talk of Antarctic expeditions, they only go to the tip, I mean the wall. They say there is a giant wall of ice, Antarctic. I've seen many YouTube videos where scientists have said that you cannot technically touch the southernmost tip of planet Earth because it is not accessible. So, and where are we in this cosmic picture? Anybody know where we are?
Are we in the stalk of the
Yeah,
lotus?
yeah. So, Chandar, did you guess that we are in that stalk of the lotus flower?
No, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, you see, whenever we see this Garbhodaksha Vishnu, you see the stalk. So, Brahmaloka is
Oh,
here. And Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka are here. And then Swargaloka is somewhere here. And planet Earth is somewhere here. And all the subterranean planets are also in the stalk. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala. Everybody's here. Can you imagine that?
yeah. Now I
Everybody
can.
there. We are all in the stalk of this lotus flower. So there is no way you can see Vishnu because we are stuck in this stalk. And anybody who has done some astronomy research, when they go out beyond 200 miles, what is the color outside? What is the color?
Black.
Black. You cannot see anything. All our scientific knowledge is only until 200 miles into the space. They cannot see a thing. That's why International Space Station doesn't go beyond 200 miles. Right? This is actually a very nice picture. I never found this before. It's a very nice picture. So it's black beyond that. Right? So this is which Vishnu? Garbhodaksha Vishnu or Karnadaksha Vishnu?
Karnodaya.
No, Karnadaksha. Yeah, not Garbho. Because Garbho is in each one of these bubbles.
Right.
Right? So whenever I find a nice slide, I put it into a PowerPoint presentation. for my own future use. And when Krishna comes, does he come from the womb of Mother Devaki, or where does he come from? Where does he come from?
He does not come from her womb.
Yeah, so where does he come from? He just appears, actually, that's it. So he appears when these people are praying, he appears as four-handed Vishnu. He becomes two-handed Krishna, and he pretends to cry, and people will go and people will actually fall asleep, right? And that's when Vasudev will put Krishna in a small basket, take him to Gokulam, exchanges him with Yogamaya, who is born to Yashoda. So they do a switch, right? And he brings Yogamaya back. And when Kamsa tries to kill Yogamaya, she escapes from his hand, goes into the sky, starts laughing, and she says, whoever is destined to kill you is already born and he's somewhere else, he's not here. And she shows her form as Mahamaya with 10 hands. And that Mahamaya is who we call Durga Devi. Durga Devi is the reason we are all stuck into the material world. So just by putting Vishnu, you can learn so much just by pictures on the internet. Right? So the Supreme Lord Krishna is always in this 1008 petaled lotus flower in the spiritual world. So in the material world, you are seeing Garbhodaka Vishnu accompanying us. He's giving us some company. But the original Lord is in the spiritual world. He never comes here. He may come here for a second of his time, which is like 125 years on the planet Earth, which is the time he spent. And when he was 125 years old, right after the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he finishes his Leela and he goes back. Okay, what is the age of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? What is the age of Krishna on battlefield of Kurukshetra? Krishna was 125 and Arjuna was 80 years old. Today, 80 years means the fellow can barely walk, right? They'll be on crutches, they'll be on a pipe. They cannot pass stool from the backside, so doctor will put a pipe in their intestines. And I've seen, in my own relatives, I've seen people carrying those bags around where the stool comes and accumulates in that bag. Colostomy kit, it's called. And then you throw it away and put a new bag. Every day you have to change your bag. You can actually see your poop coming out from the front. So Arjuna was 80 years old and he killed practically half of the 640 million people who were assembled on battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? So that is this original Purusha, the master of illusory energy. Means he is the owner of that illusory energy. So technically we call Durga Devi as a sister. You can call her sister, daughter, whatever you want, but essentially he's the master. He's the boss of Durga Devi, right? And he's the shelter of all universes. So nowhere else in the Western thought you talk of multiple universes. Of course, modern scientists do some, word jugglery and say multiverses and all that, but nowhere else, Bible, Quran, nobody discusses multiple universes. This is a very special science, actually. Then he says, I offer my obeisances at the feet of Sri Nityananda, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So then there is this Garbhodakshay Vishnu that we saw in each of these bubbles. Remember, we saw these millions of bubbles. So in each one of his bubbles, there is one Garbhodakshay Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of universe. Look at a very specific term, engineer. We are all engineers, right? We went to engineering colleges in India. So he is the engineer of material universe. So real creator of the world is Krishna. He is primary. Brahma is secondary. And the stem of that lotus is the resting place of multitude of planets. So believe it or not, look outside the window. We are in the stem of a gigantic lotus flower. We are in a stem. Then he says, I offer my respectful obeisance unto feet of Nityananda Rama, whose secondary part is Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. Now there is Kshirosagar. There is a third kind of Vishnu. Right? So let's do a search on him. He's called Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu. The artificial intelligence in Bing will be learning from all of my searches. Right? Okay. So this is Kshirosagar Vishnu, Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu. All right. So let me grab that picture and put it into my PowerPoint. But there was something interesting that I watched here. Which Vishnu is this?
Kshirodaya.
No. Garbhodakshai. Remember, you see this. What is the giveaway? The lotus stalk. See that? And ocean.
Right.
No. So he is Garbhodakshai. This is an artistic 3D. He must have used some AutoCAD or something like that. He suspended planets here and there, right? The staircases and all that. This is just imagination. But actually, all these planets are within the stalk, according to scriptures. And this is one other artist's imagination. They put all these like atomic diagrams. You see, like Niels Bohr and all those people said that these atoms go in elliptical orbits. So this artist put some elliptical orbits around Vishnu. So different people do different things. There's nothing technically wrong, but according to scriptures, we are all in this stalk. The planets are stuck in this stalk. Which Vishnu is this? Oh, the answer is there on the top. Karano Dakasai Vishnu. So I'm showing you the pictures and I'm showing you the actual things also. That Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the super soul. So what he does distributed computing. You all know what distributed computing is. There is a master node and there are millions of slave nodes. If you look at Google computing platform, every day they provision over 1 million containers. So it's a very big scale, but that is nothing compared to the size of the universe. So Kshirodakshai Vishnu distributes himself into all living entities. So there are only 8 billion human beings, but there are trillions and quadrillions of bacteria in this universe, right? Just put a petri dish in your kitchen countertop, and by next morning, if you put some bad yogurt in there, next morning you'll have 1 billion bacteria in that small dish. And he is the super soul of every living entity, like that. And then Lord Advaitacharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu. So now we are getting into this, what's known as Pancha Tattva. So what is this Pancha Tattva? Krishna, in the mood of Radha, comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the middle. And Balaram comes as Nityananda Prabhu. We just talked about Nityananda Rama, from whom everything is emanating, right? And then this is Advaitacharya. This Advaitacharya is an incarnation of Mahavishnu. But you see, they don't have 4 hands, they don't have fancy jewelry, because they are all coming as devotees. They are not coming as the Supreme Lord, right? All these are different expansions of Supreme Lord. Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna's expansion, Balaram, comes as Nityananda. Radharani comes as Gadadhar Pandit. And Jiva Tattva comes as Shiva Thakur. So the whole universe is here, right here. So whatever we discussed until this point The whole universe has just made it here. So now let's rewind back to the Bhagavad Gita. All this happened because we use this term cause of all causes. By the way, when I ask you to chant, what do I ask you to chant before the Hare Krishna mantra? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the gentleman in the middle. Prabhu Nityananda to his right. Shri Advaita to his left. Gadadhara, extreme right. Shrivasadi, extreme left. So, when you are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, before you chanting, you are invoking these 5 personalities, which according to Chaitanya Charitamrita is this whole universe. Did you see that? It's the whole universe. We talked about, how many people did we talk about? We talked about Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha. Then the first Sankarshana expands into second Sankarshana. Karanodaksai Mahavishnu comes from the second Sankarshana. Then he expands into Garbhodakasai Vishnu. He expands into Kshirodakasai Vishnu. And then we are talking about Lord Advaitacharya. So all the expansions are there in this Panchatattva mantra, right? So now you can imagine how powerful that mantra is. Once one person went to a guru. The guru said, I'll give you a mantra free of cost. Not free of cost. It's a very special mantra. You have to pay $1,000. 1,000 or 1,200, I don't remember. Then he said, okay, Gurudev, I have to find the money somewhere. He goes and he, collects the money, he comes back, and then the guru in the ear, he says, Narsimha, that's your mantra. So the disciple goes and he chants Narsimha, Narsimha, Narsimha. But in ISKCON, we give that Narsimha mantra free of cost. And every day we are singing, Namaste Narasimhaya Prahladaladaine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatanka Nakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade Tavakara Kamala Varena Kamadbuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare, etc. So people are making a business out of God. They'll give you a mantra for X number of dollars like that. But everything is there, free of cost, if you are willing to dig deep. Right? So, rewinding back, we talked about in the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cause of all causes. I know students from my next class are started to join. Please be patient. We will start sharp in 10 minutes. Thank you for joining ahead of time. That makes you a good student. So then Swami Prabhupada says, even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Right? So here we talked about 5 expansions, right? We talked about Garbhodakshai, Kshirodakshai, Chaturvyuha, which is embodied in this simple graphical picture. 5 personalities: Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Thakur. Right? But it doesn't stop there. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. So for that, we have to go to a different book. So here we are in Bhagavad Gita, here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now we have to go to Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in Canto 1, questions by sages. Actually, I think search is better than that. Ete chamsha kalapumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So 1, 3, 28. 1, 3, 28. Okay, let's all learn this. Ete chamsha kalapumshaha.
Ete
Ete
chamsha kalapurushaha.
Tamsha
Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Krishnastu
Krishnastu
Bhagavan Swayam
Swayam
Indrari Vyakulam Lokam.
Indrari
Indrari
Vyakulam
Vyakulam Lokam
Mridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Hridayanti
Mridayanti
Yuge
Yuge
Yuge.
Yuge.
All the above mentioned incarnations are either the plenary portions, plenary means fractional, right? 100% is Krishna. The other incarnations, some are 94%, some are 92%, some are 84%. Like Lord Ram is considered around 94, 96%. Shiva is 84%. And Jivas, like you and me, are 64%. So we are all parts of the Lord. We also have the same, not same, but we have a reduced power than the Lord. So all the above incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of plenary portions. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So everything ties back to Krishna actually, because he's kind of the central pivot for these millions of universes, for all creation. Everything has to be a portion of him. All of them appear on planets whenever and there is a disturbance created by atheists. So when atheists cause trouble, atheism means God, following God. When you put an A, it becomes not following God. So the Lord incarnates to protect the theists, right? And how does this tie to Bhagavad Gita? Anybody remember the core verse in Bhagavad Gita? Why does the Lord descend? Nobody? We covered this 2 weeks ago. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyudhanam tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam. So he comes for sadhu paritran, means protection. Vinashaya dushkrita. He comes to destroy the dushkrita. Dush means bad. Dharma samstapanarthaya, for dharma protection. Sambhavami yuge yuge. I'll come every millennium, every yuga. Sometimes he comes directly, sometimes he sends his representative. Right? So all of these are connected. This is connected to Bhagavad Gita. This is connected to Bhagavad Gita. Even the millions of incarnations are his different expansions. So that's what we covered here in 1328. The Lord incarnates every time, right? Appears on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists to protect the theist. Theist means people who follow God. So every line in Bhagavad Gita, right, we are in 435, is connected to something grander, every line, right? He says in the Brahma Samhita. So there is a separate book of Brahma Samhita, right? And this is the key point. Similarly, living entities are also expansions of Krishna. So it's not like you are God, but you are a small fragmental, 1 millionth, 1 billionth portion of God. So that's why you also think like God, but then you don't have the power to do things that he can do. You try by building some big skyscraper, and then some tsunami will come and that will get destroyed. You will build some wonderful piece of art, and then something will happen and it will get destroyed. Because this material world is not a permanent place, it's a temporary place. Right? So, continuing on, the bodily difference of living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We were all meant to satisfy Krishna, right? So just like there is a small bolt in your Toyota Camry, there are 20,000 parts in a Toyota Camry. If that bolt falls off, then suddenly after driving for a little while, your car will stop working. The bolt only cost 5 cents. bolt or nut, whatever you want to call it. But that 5 cent part can bring the whole Camry to a stop. Similarly, we are part of that Supreme Brahman, Parabrahman, Krishna. And we are supposed to satisfy him, serve him. But then we don't want to serve him, which means Krishna is no longer happy. A small part of him is not willing to cooperate with him. He's not happy. So we have to come back to the position of serving Krishna. So serving Krishna is hearing Bhagavad Gita like you're doing right now, chanting Hare Krishna every day for 2 hours at least. There is a number, 16 rounds, which takes roughly 2 hours. 16 times 108 mantras. So sometimes I ask people, how is your chanting? Yeah, I'm doing 16. Then I say, oh, 16 rounds, very good. He says, no, Prabhu, I'm only doing 16 times. 16 times doesn't count it. 16 times will be done in less than a minute. We are talking about 16 times 108, 16 rounds, right? So when the part is working to satisfy the whole is happy, the part is also happy. Because now part is contributing to this gigantic machine. It is happy in that sense. So, as Krishna's eternal servitor, we cannot be separated from Krishna. A living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated. But we try to do it. So that is our folly. Forgotten this purpose that we should serve God. We are all, in amnesia right now. Just like in the movie Matrix, we are all in amnesia. We have forgotten our purpose. But then what happens when a bona fide spiritual master, bona fides, it is a Greek word. Bona fides means something which is good, right? Let's look for that word in genuine, real. Only bona fide members are allowed to use the logo. It comes from the Greek word bona fides. So only a genuine spiritual master can avoid the delusion, right? So only the knowledge coming from a bona fide spiritual master can avoid that delusion. What is the delusion? Thinking that I'm separate. I have freedom, like that, right? You don't have freedom. You think you have freedom. Even in America, the land of the free, there is no real freedom actually. IRS, Internal Revenue Service. If you think you are free, just think of IRS. They tax you every year. 30% of your income goes to IRS. Where is the freedom, right? But when you cooperate with the government, life is a little better. Similarly, when you cooperate with Krishna, life is a little better. Okay, so now it is 4:44. I announced 4:45 as the time for our next class. And the existing students can continue to stay because it's the same topic in a different pace. Right now we are going a little faster, but we will slow down. So liberation, everybody talks of liberation. This is not the same liberation as Palestine Liberation Army. They are fighting a war with Israelis. That is not the kind of liberation we are talking about. We are talking about liberation from cycle of birth and death. The technical term for that in Sanskrit is mukti. Mukti means you don't take birth again. And Krishna is called Muktipada. Means at his feet you can attain liberation. Okay. So change of speed now. So I'm seeing a lot of people joining already. 10 people joined this call. आपको क्या करना है? आपको फर्स्ट लेटर यहाँ पे लिखना है, दिस वन ता, देन आपको उसमें ना ऐड कर देना, तो हमारा क्या हो गया? ता ना ता. Okay, thanks everyone for joining the class. My name is Radhika Gopinath Das.